Good afternoon in Tokyo and good morning in Abu Dhabi. Welcome to ROLES-IGSDA seminar series on drones and cannons, changing the balance of power in and around the Middle East. This is part one of this series. The title is Beware the Non-State Actors, Houthi Threats on the Gulf Country. From January this year, the security situation in the Gulf, particularly in Abu Dhabi, UAE, is deteriorating, and drones and missiles are shot from probably from Yemen, a non-state actor over there, and UAE security apparatus is defending itself and its people. But what's behind this quick change of situation, and what the response from UAE and Gulf nation? What's the response from international community? On this topic, we invite a very appropriate expert on this issue, Dr. and Major General Said Ghoneim. He is the director of IGSDA, Institute of Global Security and Defense Affairs, based in Abu Dhabi. He is a retired officer of Egyptian Army and now an academic working on security and international politics of the Middle East. Welcome, Dr. Ghoneim, on our podium. Hi, Dr. Ghoneim. Thank you for joining us. And now, today is a long day, long afternoon in Tokyo, and in the morning in Abu Dhabi, we have set up two webinars for you. The first of it is about the non-state actors and how Gulf countries are responding to it. And the second one is about regional powers and its global stature, particularly on Turkey. On both of these topics, you are an expert and now working and directing a think tank in Abu Dhabi. So you are the most appropriate person for us to ask. So welcome to our podium, and please explain to us what's going on, what's the perception from over there, what's the assessment of the situation, please.
Okay, my dear friend Satoshi, Rayo, Tatan, everybody, thank you so much for having me again. Really, always my pleasure. I try to be precise, concentrating in the topic. It's, as you see, this one is about 3,800 words. I will brief as possible as I can, and also to give good opportunity to the audience, whoever like to ask any questions, most welcome. And I will be also very happy that if anybody would like to share with questions, share with comments, with analysis, even as panelists, really, it will make me very happy. I mean, just from my side, from your side, would be as you wish, for sure. From my side, it's open. I have no restrictions. I will answer very honestly all questions as possible as I can. Okay. Now, can I share my presentation, please?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And anyone from the audience, please don't hesitate to write down your question, comment in the Q&A box. We really appreciate it. So please, Dr. Said.
Okay. Is it open now?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So first, everybody knows that it is the first time announced. Let me say, I'm not sure it happened before or not, maybe in 2018 as It's mentioned in the media, but this is first time for 3 times inside Abu Dhabi, and Houthis announced it also inside Dubai, but what have been confirmed inside Abu Dhabi to launch, how can I say, a long-range, deep shelling, starting with drones, then plastic missiles, twice, even including drones in the last time. And really, it was like, let me say, to some people it was surprise, to others it was expected, but we didn't know which time exactly it could be. Some of the questions, I can say in introduction that we were really asking ourselves, why now? And for sure, you have 2 options, that maybe it's pushed by Iran, one of the scenarios or options, which was a weak one, maybe pushed by Iran just to be the upper hand in any current negotiation between Iran and UAE. So it's directed, and I will tell you why it's very weak scenario. Second one, it's directly by Houthis as they announce it. Why? Because UAE from the back or from far distance, they support the Joint Brigade in the south. And I think they did so because, Emirates did so because they started to see that the Houthis coming from the north was enveloping the forces in the south, and south is threatening the Red Sea, which is very important to which I call it the new strategy of United Arab Emirates, which is including, how can I say, securing the straits and for trade and for seaports, which they are expanding very much, I can say, at least trans-regional in our region. Other question that it was really appearing that why first time by drones and from which place exactly, and why after that by ballistic missiles. And we were always discussing that by drones to see that sea with asymmetric war with $10,000 maximum cost of a weapon, we can, penetrate and attack you when you have weapons with billions of dollars. And we can reach your depth, and we didn't do it before because, as he mentioned, or as it's in the media, let me say that because there's something like agreements between us that, okay, you withdraw from the mission and then we will not target you as we do with Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure that you read all of that. And then with ballistic missile, because it was suspicious or doubtful if they used ballistic missile in the first time or not, so we are using it again, but why they didn't use drones, really we were asking, and one of the answers that may be because they used drones from inside UAE, and UAE became very alert concerning it, and they had several restrictions not to use drones inside the country by any civilian people, as it was allowed in any civilian, in several civilian fields, in peaceful fields, So they stopped using that, and after that, they didn't use drones for a long time, or comparatively, I cannot say long time, for some time. Why? We believe that maybe because drones became really under control, and so on. So now this is just a small introduction. Okay, I like to start always with goals, how everybody really is thinking. I believe that Iran is aiming, all its surrounding region. They would like, as always I say, they would like to have 2 main bridges to the outside, to the Mediterranean and to the Red Sea. And they see to the Mediterranean, they have in the heart Iraq, to the Mediterranean, they have Syria and Lebanon. To the Red Sea, they have Yemen. And so they would like to deter the coalition, to deter the Gulf countries, even without some of them not participating right now. So they would like to deter them and to enforce them to be careful with the Iranian interest in the region. So this is the main goal, main general goal in general, to Iran. And they are very aware or very concerning, Iranian, about their own security, not only national security, but even regional security, Iranian mechanism. So they are very caring about this one. Especially now, it's now big and more an open cooperation with the common let me say, used to be enemy, which is Israel. And Israel is the main enemy to Iran, true enemy to Iran. And the Gulf became also more enemy to Iran. Let me say, especially since last decade or early last decade, even it increased, and even before that, but it wasn't that announced like now. Saudi Arabia, they would like to readjust the rule of engagement. Again, they would like to make sure that, their operation is under control, because they started to be isolated time by time militarily, inside this mission. And I think that they don't want to open more fronts and they would like to finish in Yemen as soon as possible, because it became really problem for them. So they would like to finish. In Shabwa and Ma'rib, everybody knows, as you read, that it's very strategic. Ma'rib has a lot of wealth and geostrategically, geoeconomically, and that's why Shabwa is militarily important to Ma'rib. Who control Shabwa can control Ma'rib for sure. So they get closer more to United Arab Emirates, because I believe militarily, just inside Yemen, they did not agree that much. And somehow insecurity-wise, so they get closer concern the South. They are on one track, or they became on one track. So they try to achieve what I mentioned right now, this how to adjust the rule of engagement, at least together with United Arab Emirates. Houthis, I believe that they would like to, as I said, to neutralize, to stop Emirates supporting giants, because it was very successful. And Emirates, I believe the main aim, and remember this one, please, the main goal to Emirates, the current main goal now, to stop targeting their own depth. Okay. Okay. Relations, or impacts on relations, let me say. I think, UAE became closer to Saudi Arabia. There is no doubt about that. And even they are competing each other right now, and their competition increased, especially economically, leadership somehow, priority, pioneer, who could be pioneer in this region. So what I want to say here, within this competition, so because of this strike, Emirates has to be closer to Saudi Arabia, who is controlling, the management inside Yemen. So they had to be, I can say, closer. And I think Saudi Arabia, I believe that they are suffered, of shortage of air defense missiles after withdrawing, Patriot from their countries last year or even before. So now they need support in United Arab Emirates in that, because they have a lot of Patriot, a lot of TAD inside a very small country, and then they need at least, cooperation. And I think it's currently going on, maybe to have how can I say, common plan to defensive, even bigger than Saudi Arabia and Emirates. Iran. Here's a very important point. I was really asking myself and asking my friends everywhere who we have discussions like you, is Iran really happy with the result? I don't think so. I should put Iran the last one, but because it's very important, I put in the beginning with Saudi Arabia. Why? Because now Saudi Arabia became closer. Egypt, which had some, let me say, disputes with Emirates in Ethiopia, in Eastern Mediterranean right now, after closing the war dimension or the military dimension in Libya. So now they are getting closer. Turkey getting closer by nature, if not by nature, by preparations since last November. And this current visit, this today is the return from Erdogan to Mohammed bin Zayed. So they are getting closer, and I think this will be good opportunity to Mohammed bin Zayed to say, okay, your investment, you are not the one with the upper hand. Also, I can support with security, maybe. And also, it's a good opportunity to Erdogan, who was always condemned by UAE, by Egypt, by Bahrain, by Saudi Arabia itself, that he's supporting terrorism. No, you consider Houthis terrorism. Maybe he will exploit this opportunity. I'm talking about Turkey. So Iran is not happy with all of that. Is not happy with all of that, and this really. So why Houthis is doing that? Is they are doing that separately from Iran? I really don't know. Iran miscalculate. If at least they agree, they give Houthis green light to do something like this. Because, by the way, all drones, Houthis can assemble the drones themselves, but they need the spare parts. And this even I learned it from my very good friend, the Belgian defense attaché, Colonel Eric Michels, that maybe they need from Iran at least the spare parts to be providing them from time to time. So if Iran really at least gives the green light, are they happy with the results now? I think they are losing all the gains which they earned before. I mean, because, Gulf is split. This is a problem with against Qatar. They gained a lot from it. Even after reconciliation, they are not really reconciled as it was expected. So they're still happy with this kind of split among them. Split between Saudi Arabia and Emirates somehow, split between Egypt and Emirates, and so on. Israel became much closer, much closer. Iran is happy with that? I don't think so. And always I say something that as there is Israeli normalization, there is Iranian normalization. This is my opinion, actually. And if Israeli normalization for favor for the United States against China, so Iranian normalization for favor of China against Israel. And remember, Israeli normalization, I think, from Israeli point of view, it's like something like taking you away from Iran. From American point of view, to maintain my allies. From Chinese point of view, Iranian normalization is to get the competing allies together, as if you see in the Olympics, that China in one booth, I think in the Olympics, Mohammed bin Zayed, Tamim, and Sisi, they were together the first time, right? So they like that. They like to get together. So I think Iran should be, and I think that was something fixing what happened from Houthis. Yes, we are together. You are together. Iranian normalization somehow maybe in the future, because the closest country to Iran is Qatar, and you are closer to Qatar seriously. It's first time to be together here in Beijing, right? I think so. If I go now, I try to be quickly. I'm sorry. So if I go now to Israel, yeah, they are getting closer. They are getting closer to Israel. I'm sure about that. Even more, because Israel can provide security. They have air defense, very good air defense. They have the dome, which is not that very helpful. The dome, I mean, the Iron Dome, because of some technical issues, which I'm not very good in. But anyway, from my understanding and readings, and even my assistants who helped me in that, they try to convince me that some other weapons, which I will show here right now, is more more suitable to Emirates than the Iron Dome. But anyway, it could be needed as well. And because it's used on the ground, by Israeli against Hamas. So it could be successful also, and they have the money to buy it. But the problem with Israel that may be transferring technology or give it to Emirates like this, because honestly, from my own side, I don't believe the approachment between Israel and Emirates is that true approachment in all levels. Even normalization is true normalization between Israel and Emirates should be in all levels. If I compare it with Egypt, for example, it's not that fully normalization. What I would like to say here that it's still, it shows on the top that it's fully trust between the two countries, but as analysts, I don't think so. I don't think so. For some other reasons, we can talk about that. So Israel is getting closer. They can support with several weapons, air defense. And remember, I think it will be very good for Israel. Why? Israel always say that Iran is the far enemy and Hezbollah is a close enemy. Houthis, because of militarily and geoeconomic position of Emirates, and because of intervention of Saudi Arabia, which became the close enemy to their allies. So when they remember I told you the two bridges of Iran to reach the two big seas, especially not only Red Sea but also Indian Ocean. So from Mediterranean and south, this Red Sea and Indian to Iran, I mean. So Houthis, they have a very important role. So they are the close enemy to them. So why not to have a front air defense line, protected and paid by Gulf, and we have the benefit to us as Israel from you can check, and that's why Egypt also can have advantage from that. I will tell you how. Turkey, as I mentioned, Turkey can get closer. Turkey can get good opportunity, as I mentioned, to show themselves that everybody was lying that we are supporting terrorism. I will tell you something. It happened with me. It's not secret. Some of media people, I will not say from which country, they start to talk to me just like this. General, what can we say now about Turkey and Qatar? Should we continue describing them as terrorists? This is very important, as if they were only just following a wave to describe them, and now they are allies, or they should be described as allies. I hope you understand what I mean right now. So media was a bit affected to talk this way, and most of analysts, they were affected to talk this way, that taking Qatar and Turkey as enemies, as supporting terrorists. But now, and that's why it's good opportunity for both, and that's why even maybe Qatar will try to show itself somehow, because it should be in the coalition anyway, and whatever they have really good relation with Iran, still, not that trust, still somehow also. Trying to be quickly, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it's looking like this. Okay, Egypt. I believe that, Egypt, yeah, it's one of the biggest armed forces, in the region. We have a word, مسافة السكة. That masafa means distance, sekka means route. It's Egyptian slang. So when Satoshi calls me, Sayyid, I need you, I hope always he asks me this as brother. When he say, I need you, I tell him masafti sekka. That means nothing will stop me helping you, only the distance and the route. And you have the priority now to support. President Sisi said this word in 2017, after the boycott or against Iran, if you call it BCH, it's up to everybody for sure. So, but I believe it's boycott for some reasons, some political reasons. Anyway, so I think that he would like to implement it right now somehow, because it's different. Even though, remember, that in 60, that Egypt was supporting North against South. And this is the history, and this is something related to the Egyptian national security. Red Sea, remember, whatever. Now, what Egypt will do, even by sending observers, advisors or trainers, as Emirates were doing, with Yemeni in the south for the Giant or any other, so that will be supporting vice versa, right? This is important. And I think Iran itself, Houthis themselves, remember one of the reasons, which really I mentioned before with my dear friend Satoshi and in other seminars before, that I think that it was understood, one of the reasons why Egypt did not participate, one of the reasons, that, it's because we have not very nice history with Yemen against Saudi Arabia, who were supporting the South this time, So maybe, and Iran understand that, Houthis understand that, but situation is different. History not always repeats itself, right? So I think Egypt is getting closer. Everybody sees in the media, which is very good between brothers, that Egypt supporting the brother with a common interest between them, Egypt and the younger brother, which is Emirates, for example. But I think it's farther than that. It's farther. It's really, truly national security, because it's a Red Sea. We have some military base, in the south, Barniz, we call it Barniz in Arabic, Baranais, I think, or Barniz, in English. So it's in the range of Houthis as well. And I don't say that we provoke to, how can I say, to give the opportunity to Houthis to target us in our depths, starting at least from Barniz. But remember, I think if I were Emirati, I don't know how they think. I don't know how Egypt even thinks. Really, I don't know. But if I were Emirati, and I'm always targeted inside my depth, I could notice something. If you notice in all strikes inside Emirates, when they target Emirates, even and Saudi Arabia, you don't target them in the same minute or even in the same hour. The shortest time between them, it was 6 hours. Also, I don't think they are capable to target more than 2 countries inside the depth. So if I were Emirati decision maker, maybe I'm totally wrong. I would say what? Okay, I need new coalition just to be involved directly inside Yemen. One of the reasons, and remember, why not to be behind? One of the main reasons to scatter the efforts of Houthis. Will Houthi target all the depths of all countries who are participating? Will this target the depths of Israel, target the depths of Egypt? If Turkey, by any means, supports by any means, they will target the depth of Turkey, and they are targeting depth of Saudi and Emirates, that will be scattering. And I think Emirates is successful somehow in that. And by the way, it's not only military or militarily, this kind of participation or joining or interactions. It could be diplomatically, and it happened in the United Nations. And the speech of the Egyptian representative in the United Nations was very clear, was fully support. And also in the Arab League, for sure. So an Arab League now, if they have common really support together, so it's a very good opportunity, not only to Emirates, but also to Saudi Arabia, to the Arab League. Saudi Arabia is very happy with what's going on right now, remember. Okay, United States. Remember that the first interception was by TAT. Because I'm sure you in Tokyo, some or other all over the world, you were always asking, which weapon, which air defense means was the first one to intercept, inside UAE. And they have several from different countries, or not very several, but they have some. It was very needed, and it was likely for the United States, it was American. And by the way, as I learned it from my colleagues who knows more even than me, that it was the first time to be, tested, the TAD, even it's not tested on Korea, for example, against North Korea, if something happened, like Qatar, I hope not. So what I would like to say, it was very good. So USA is very happy with that. We are the one who is the main responsible of offering security to the Gulf. Our weapon was the one to intercept, and we're still ready to do that. But even though, and I will mention that later, is it really Patriot and TAD enough technically and tactically to support UAE in the future with these drones, with the short range, with the low level and very low level approach and attack and fly from these attacking weapons? We have to understand. Remember what I told you, that the main competition is always between China and USA now, especially in the Gulf, not that Russia that much, Gulf more in the north, in Sham, which in Syria. So, but inside Gulf, because of Iran, let me say, because of Belt and Road, more than me in this. But I want to say that USA would like always to make their allies happy. You are my allies. You are not Chinese allies. They cannot provide you security. I can provide you security. And this is truth. For example, not because China is weak or they are not able to do that, but China, they have a clear image or a clear policy of approach. We are not aggressive. We use economy. We use culture. We use always the soft power. And this is the Chinese speech. But also remember, I mentioned before that it's not that important to be powerful to use your sharp power, but you have to be influential to use your sharp. Powerful, you can use your soft power because you don't have this existence and influence, to use sanctions, for example, to use solid power, to use in any region, but in South China Sea, they can use the sharp power very strongly because they are influential more. But if I compare with Russia and USA, they can use sharp power in this region. And that's why it's still the balance to USA somehow. So the relation between USA and Emirates, I'm sure it will be increased militarily and security ground. The only problem, if I compare between China and USA here, according to my understanding to Emirates, maybe I'm wrong again. I know that I'm not talking in representing any country, even my country, Egypt, that I think UAE likes to deal with governments more than personal or individuals or companies. So USA with the free capitalism is the approach with companies. UAE try to approach with governments, even governmental companies. But mainly, yeah, Xi Jinping always there. Xi Jinping always there, the president of China. Okay, like the umbrella of doing everything. And I think Emirates like that. Second point, which is really important, that they have a clear long-term strategy initiative built on road. I don't think that the only clear long-term strategy of the United States is the liberal hegemony, their grand strategy is the offshore balancing. Okay, it's very clear to them, and they implement it with its first two dimensions. I can talk about this if you like, because it's really important. If I even make connection between what's going on in China, what's going on in Ukraine right now, in Europe, I mean in East Asia and Europe, I'm sorry, in East Asia and Europe. So offshore balancing is very important here. But anyway, what I can say that there is no truly economic approach. The only one which economy was a dimension among it was a wider Middle East or greater Middle East, and its reputation is very bad in our region. It's like conspiracy against the region. I understand, as you understand what is the greater Middle East, but the only one which has a dimension, economic one, it's economic, it's education, it's political, but political is the one on the surface always Russia and China use to spoil the reputation of the United States. Russia. It was really difficult to me to understand what Russia needs exactly, but they declare they are against what Houthis did. They are against. And remember, the main income of Russia is two: oil and gas and weapons trade. So, okay, if you buy my weapons, you are most welcome, especially if you are state actor, not non-state actor. If they sell to everybody, but I think, I'm not sure, but I think they sell to everybody, but they need to have big portion in the cake of weapons trade in Saudi Arabia. I think so. So I think they get closer in this issue, especially. I believe that UAE air defense is very, very, very strong. For example, F-35 is fifth generation of, when I compare with its counterparts. S-400 is fourth generation, but S-400 is the one who is against F-35. So fourth generation of Russia air defense is against fifth generation of American air defense. And always, even, we have Russian and American in Egypt, we compare air defense of Russia is really somehow stronger. Okay. I don't think China is happy with this attack inside, the country. I don't think so, because it's breaking what they try. They try. Remember what I said before? If I said it to my dear friend Professor Satoshi, that how can I see the difference between USA, Russia, and China of dealing with the threats of their enemies, of threats of their allies? USA, they can fight beside you, or they can support much to fight your threats, like what they did in Iraq in 1990 and 2003, what they did in Afghanistan. Okay, just until just last year, what they were going to do against Iran, almost. They were going to attack somehow because of some reason. If you remember, the unmanned vehicle has been shot by Iranian. Russia, they fight, yes, like in Syria, but to be inside a new Russian home, not to be out from it for good if they can. If they enter Syria, they will not be out. But they pay for that they fight, enemies of Syria, because they will live inside the house of Syria, right? Or the Syrian home. But they prefer containment policy, like Sochi, consider it successful or not, doesn't resolve the issue, but they could manage the influence between Iran and Turkey, who I believe really is the main historical competitors in our region. They are empires, they are big strengths, they are big powers, they have a lot, they are demographically giant, and so. So both of them, I mean, and they have different goals. Always forget about Sunni and Shia. It's not the issue because it's something related to the current regimes of both. But anyway, he could manage, competition among them. I think China, no. Did you remember when I mentioned about Olympics? China, they don't like and they are not very keen to do it. They don't have even the experience of this diplomatic and security maneuvers of the Russian and Americans to fight in behalf of you, to deal security-wise with your enemies. But why to be enemies? Get together, get closer. And this will be a very nice environment for me, to do my, at least the declared one, which is built and rolled through Iran, through you, through East Europe, through North Mediterranean, through Central Asia, through Horn of Africa, through, the South from Horn of Africa, and through Africa itself. So get closer, which is common mankind, destiny or something like that. They would like to be together. So they are different. So China, I think they are not happy with what's going on, and they would like to very quickly. And I think maybe they may try to put pressure somehow or to convince Iran. Remember that Sheikh Tahnoun, that the man of security of Emirates, was in your country, and now where are you? And by the way, I would like to mention something here somehow related. That socially inside the Arab region, that we are against normalization as Arab, total, and against Israel itself because of the history between us. When Israel became very quickly to support, so the first question, why Iran did not come quickly even before Israel and do decisive its position or its stance towards the situation happened from Houthis to say, no, this is wrong, especially as I'm saying, if I'm right, that this harmfully affecting Iran, Iran achievements, what they did, this kind of split between Arabs, especially Gulf community or Gulf GCC. So I think that if Iran, and I think China will be the most happier or the most happiest country if Iran has advanced and came quicker before Israel, not to see, I will help you against Houthis, 100% no, but at least to see, I'm the key country here, Houthis is my arm or whatever, I can convince them why to, and we can find some way between you as even not mediator, but as controller as they like to do, right? And remember, one thing between Iran and Turkey, a common thing of both of them, they like to be supreme and the main actor when they deal with any problem, not even counterpart, especially in our region. They like to be counterpart with Europe, with USA, with China, both of these countries. However, Iran still needs China economically. Turkey still needs its, back to its allies somehow in the Gulf. But I hope you understand my point in this. Okay. I think I don't want to talk about China more. I mentioned what I would like to say, just to save time. I'm sorry. What's next from Emirates? As I told you, Emirates will try and is trying right now to have more allies, to stop or to scatter, the efforts of Houthis. So we need more allies, and to urge the international community. So militarily, to urge the international community. If I talk about political, diplomatic and security levels at first, getting closer to all powers outside the region. You would like, even to Russia itself. It's not that inside the Gulf, if I compare with China and USA, to get closer to any other allies who can help. To Europe. Europe, they have some inside, but not same acting, like United States and Russia, for example. So they try to get closer, to put pressure in, United Nations and the Arab League they need to concentrate more allies, as I said, diplomatically, security, politically against Houthis, to continue strategy more from behind. Yes, they keep support the South, but still even from behind, calmer, in a calming environment. I think so. And militarily, for sure, as I said, they will need to have more weapons to protect inside. Why? Why? Because internal strategic depth of Emirates is not like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is big, so the effect is not that harmful like effect inside Emirates. Houthis knows very well something, that collapse of economy is very important, and the direct key to collapse the economy, that the foreigners to leave the country, because we are about 9.5 millions or 9 millions. If I compare with Emirates, 1.5, we are 8.5, I'm sorry. And so look at the number, it's something like almost 90% who is, directing the countries in terms and life-wise, labor-wise. So if they convince us to flee, then the collapse. And this affects more us as foreigners. So they would, UAE knows that very well, and they try to stop it as soon as possible by any means. And that's why they will need more weapons. Why? I think, as the means of fire, which Emirates really have, I think they have a lot from Patriot, from CAD, from other countries, but for the very low level, they are not enough. To work with simple, not very sophisticated technology like drones and so, not enough. So they need this type of weapons or air defense weapons. So they will need it. That's why I mentioned this is, Aster. I mentioned Tur M2 from Russia. I mentioned, Panzer, the Russian one. The Aster, the French. I'm sorry, the Panzer one from Russia as well. And even they will need more from different countries. And I think they will, because I am not sure how they defend themselves. It's very military inside the country. But I'm sure that there are some gaps to need to protect. Not only to concentrate on the vital objectives, the vital, let me say, presidential balances, like the Abu Dhabi TV or Dubai TV, like trade centers, but you need to spread more even in the open desert, because it's not important to hit someone and killing three is not that the issue, but to UAE it's issue, but to receive a missile hitting the country without intercepting, it's very bad to their reputation, which really they depend on, because they like to work in that we are always ready to protect our country 100%, not 99.9. I think so. So that's why I show to you some of this, Spider. This is the Israeli one, and Aster, the French one, which really they are working with different heights, attitudes. And I think for the low, as I told you, low level and very low level. Also, for this is Tur M2, the Russian one, it's very effective, and maybe they will need it, and Russia will be happy. Even they will try to show more, and they are very skillful in that. And the Iron Dome, for sure, they need it, but I'm not sure if Israel will give it to them or not. I can add to that, and I don't have enough information about it, electronic means, because as you are all aware more than me, our technological industrial country, they have two options to intercept the communication between the drones or the missiles and the GPS, or to intercept the directing tools which direct the missiles and the so they are very in need in that. So electronic means they need more. And I think China and Russia are very skillful, but they don't show much about it. So I think they need about it. I would like to add here something I didn't mention by presentation very briefly, that I agree with the question of Professor Satoshi that it's really changing of balance with asymmetric war, but it's not new generation of war. And if we'd like to ask, I'm ready with that. Why? But something academically. Thank you so much. I don't know how much time I used. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Said Ghoneim. We have more than 30 minutes for questions for this part one, so we have enough time for discussion. And thank you for your very comprehensive and thick analysis of the impact for all the parties in the region and abroad. So oh, excuse me, I have not introduced myself from the start, and I'm Satoshi Ikeuchi, a professor of religion and global security of the University of Tokyo, and also a chair of the ROLES RCAST, open laboratory for emerging strategies established within this University of Tokyo Research Center for Advanced Science Technology. So today, our team, one of our team is the commentator, discussant, Dr. Ryo Hinata Yamaguchi, who has joined us on ROLES and the University of Tokyo just last August, but he is now working in full throttle, organizing as an executive manager of ROLES, our think tank ROLES. So today, today's topic is more close to Dr. Ryo Yamaguchi's expertise. So please, Dr. Ryo Yamaguchi, do you have any question, comments, in the opinion, rebuttal? Please.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Satoshi Ikeuchi, and also, of course, thank you very much to General Ghoneim. Thank you very much for your great presentation. My name is Ryo Hinata Yamaguchi, Project Assistant Professor at the Research Center for Advanced Science and Technology of the University of Tokyo, and also Executive Director at ROLES. It's a great honor to be able to serve as a discussant for General Ghoneim's talk. Although I must admit, I'm by no means a Middle East, North Africa expert. I focus more on military and political issues in the Indo-Pacific. So please bear with me for my lack of knowledge and lack of knowledge on the circumstances in the Middle East and North Africa region. But overall, again, thank you very much, General Ghoneim. Your presentation was fantastic, and your paper, I read it with great interest. And it's a fantastic primer, I found, the paper, to gain insight on the state of affairs concerning the recent attacks against the UAE, but also the complex of circumstances surrounding not only the UAE itself, as you have described, but the Middle East and North Africa region overall. And so I thought there's a lot of value there. At the same time, I also felt that, through reading the paper and listening to your presentation, the great value of this paper was not just the insights that open up our eyes and minds to many, many of the things in the region, but at the same time, the great value of the paper is that it opened up a lot of questions that warrant greater attention. And so there's a lot of things that we now have to think about, to understand the complex situation there. And so first, regarding the recent attacks and the circumstances, the biggest question that I've had for the last a couple of weeks regarding attacks is who is behind these attacks, and in what ways did these attacks unfold? And there are various claims out there on who is behind it. Some claiming that it is Iran that's sort of pulling the strings here and there, controlling the Houthis and the militias in Iraq, whilst others are claiming that Iran, in fact, is losing control over the situation, in particular the Houthis and the Iraqi militias. And so, I was, wondering, what, where's the truth? Where can we sort of, understand or see the real story behind these attacks? That's one. And I think, like anything in any region, understanding the background is extremely important because we are likely to see some different scenarios that come out from that background. And so here the key question is whether the recent developments are opening the way toward a new balance of power in the Middle East and North Africa, as you have discussed. And what are the zero-sum aspects of that? Are the zero-sum balances changing in ways that are different from the past? That's, I think, a big question, because zero-sum balances, that's always something that stands at the center of balance of powers, according to this realist framework. But is a zero-sum balance is a zero-sum balance today in 2022 and onward different from the zero-sum balances that we saw pre-2021? So that's one key question. And again, I'm not a Middle East, North Africa expert by any means, but what I do see and what I do understand is that we see various state and non-state and non-state actors that are sort of intertwined, and that's something that I've always learned when it comes to Middle East, and that makes the situation so fluid there. And so again, are there going to be new complexities in the years to come? That's, I guess, another thing I'd like to ask there. Another important question concerning latest developments is that while we have high recognition of the UAE's military readiness, and I see this a lot in the media saying, look, the UAE is ready.
No, this question, please, what you say?
Sir?
Yeah, the last one.
Okay, the last point is, again, because we have non-state and non-state actors intertwined, and that creates new complex situations. Are we likely to see, again, completely new circumstances unfolding in the Middle East and North Africa? In other words, do we see new dynamics between state and non-state actors? And so, sorry, maybe my headphone is not working properly. Yeah. And again, like we're going back to the thing about the mid-UAE. When I read through various articles regarding this recent situation, a lot of people have said that the UAE is now much more ready about threats from the outside, and I think a lot of people have also gained faith in missile defense system because they have seen this work now. But the question here is it really safe to say that the Houthis will not get their way in the future? If the UAE and its allies are going to be more ready against ballistic missiles and drones, that's great. But wouldn't that also mean the Houthis will find other ways to try and get their way? In that it's not all about missiles and drones, maybe it's about other means that will allow the Houthis and other militias and so forth to achieve their missions. Because the thing is that, and the other thing here is that attacking military capabilities or neutralizing military capabilities is not always a solution. You have to decapitate the threat, the key nucleus of the threat. But there are obviously a lot of challenges when it comes to non-state actors because they are often floating around here and there. Now, so then the questions I have regarding Middle East or the current situation. And the final part, I have some questions here regarding military modernization, if I may. When I read your paper, I was extremely interested by some of the arguments you made about military modernization and about warfare. And we actually talked a little bit about this before this session formally started. And I look into this a lot in my research. And it's also a topic that I find is extremely controversial because people who study military strategies and technologies, they have different interpretations based on whether they are practitioners or whether they are scholars. In other words, people who are in the military or people who understand the military versus scholars, they have different interpretation about what we mean by generational shifts in warfare or revolutionary warfare and so forth. And it's all confusing. And so I completely agree with you that we need to be careful about using that word military, revolutionary military affairs or revolutionary warfare, because again, there are a lot of caveats here. And there are a lot of imbalances in these debates, and that leads to greater confusion about how we should understand this topic. If I heard you correctly in your presentation and your paper, your argument seems to be that we are seeing new tools to fight the same wars that we have been fighting for many, many years, but not necessarily revolution in the way wars are fought. And I think that's a very, very important point. And I agree very much with that, General. And I think that's something that we have to sort of remind ourselves all the time. But I also want to be a little bit controversial here, as my role as a discussant, and that is, what would it take, in your opinion, to take wars to the next generation? In other words, what kinds of things do we need to see, or what kinds of things need to develop in order for warfare to really become revolutionized or changed? And I often feel that, again, we become over-captivated by technologies. But so you've served in the military for a long time, serving in top leadership. I also, served as a sergeant as well. And people in the military, we understand that it's not so much that we are obsessed with new technologies in the military. Rather, we just simply want better methods or tools in order to more effectively and efficiently achieve our missions. Simple as that. And so again, this is where we need to be very careful about technologies, because certain technologies are, they are changing warfare, like submarines, mines, and so forth. But some technologies, even if they are made in 2021, they are just simply enhancing what we have been doing for a long, long time. And so again, I'd like to ask a question about what kinds of new things need to take place before wars can be revolutionized. I think what I can say here is, at least from my opinion, is that the only tools that have really revolutionized warfare in recent years is cyber, maybe, and also information warfare, which we are using a lot, again, in that sometimes wars are fought and sometimes won even before the first gun is fired. And so I'd like to sort of poke you a little bit on that point as well. So again, it's not so much about revolutionizing warfare, but again, simply trying to find a new way to carry out the missions more effectively. And so again, I'd like to ask, some of your opinions on what you think are the drivers of change in warfare. Finally, the other caveat that we need to think about, I think, and this really adds on to the value of General Ghoneim's presentation, is that we need to be careful about we need to be careful in our understanding of how wars are fought and how militaries are strong or weak. Because here I feel that, again, this is something that is coming from the military perspective, is that logistics is always important. It's not just about the best guns, best missiles, and so forth. Logistics are important. Wars are fought by humans. They need to eat. They need to sleep. They need supplies. And all that. And so, again, we can't just think about revolutions in technology. We have to also think about how militaries are ready for war. I don't like to use the word capabilities, because capability is just raw. Readiness is the real thing, the logistics. Are we prepared? Are the militaries prepared? You can have a military with high-level technologies, but if the pilots are not properly trained, or if they're not sleeping or eating properly, then they are useless. On the other hand, if you have a military that has old weapons, but the soldiers and sailors are extremely well disciplined, they're trained and they're fed and they are sleeping and resting and they're motivated, then that's a fairly strong military. So I think that's also another thing that we can think about as well. So again, overall, I was like, wow, compared to listening to General Ghoneim's presentation, it's a lot of value there. And again, the real value of the paper is that you have opened our eyes to new questions that we have to think about in order to sort of understand the real complexities. So thank you very much, General Ghoneim, for your presentation and your paper. And it's a great honor to be able to serve as a discussant for your presentation and paper. So Professor Ikeuchi, I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ryo and General Ghoneim. We are away from each other for about 2 years, but now you know how I worked hard in supplying our new ammunition to our new troops. So okay, so that's a very strong discussion to your very strong lecture. So Dr. Ghoneim, what is your response to Dr. Ryo's comment?
Okay, just we are away physically, but seminars online we keep one, so still closer. Okay. Anyway, I will answer, if I could understand the 3 questions, just to confirm, who did so? Okay, who did it? Second, the balance, my perspective about the balance in the region, especially in different regions, even and in the near future, at least. Third question, my opinion of warfare, revolutionary warfare, and so on. So the first one, okay, let's be more precise and very brief. Mainly, Houthis did it. Okay, this is known to everybody, declared by them, or confessed, let me say, recognized by them, and repeated by the spokespersons, not only inside UAE but even all over the world. Conspiracy theory. Let me talk now about other options. Some people, I would like to tell you all opinions, not only my opinion. My opinion, I like what's in the lines. Some other people, they like to read what's, amongst the lines. So among the lines, some people believe of 2 things. One of them that maybe, don't be surprised, I disagree or agree, it's not the issue, but it's conspiracy theory. Why not Israel support in that to get closer? For sure, we are analysts, we are not spokespersons. I don't say that this is breaking of the diplomacy between the 2, normalized countries. No. I mean, just a way of thinking of some others. Because who is the most beneficiary of that is Israel, right? Why especially? They are close, to Emirates anyway. But when Emirates get closer to Iran, it should be like panic to Israel. But by the way, see what's going on between Europe, NATO, and Russia. But Macron was there, right? Whatever his position, why is mediator? But he was there, President Macron. So there is some we visit each other, we talk to each other. Even if I describe you or classify you as enemy, a threat, we talk to each other. But anyway, this one. Second one, some people believe, why not Saudi Arabia? Or at least they are happy with that. That because this make Emirates get closer, and at least to release the pressure from Houthis against them, and very well the international community will be closer and rapid reaction to Emirates move for some reasons. Maybe if you would like to know, I can tell you our perspective of that. Second, balance. Yes, as I mentioned during my lecture, and as you mentioned in your wonderful comment, that balance would be affected, and it's affected not only from now, but from before, because the true balance, not only because of weapons, yes, because of weapons, for sure. Don't tell me that this $10,000 to fight billions of dollars of air defense systems, yeah, but this what's going on. This what's going on. We have to do that, right? But here there is another, not that very technical. It's, let me say, within the warfare itself, who is doing the reaction with the asymmetric war? It's usually non-state actor. Like, for example, if something happened between Russia and Ukraine, it's not that asymmetric war, even though that Russia has very modern weapons, right? Some of them known, some of them not known until now. But see how much bridge of provision of weapons came from United States and Europe, for example, right? So it will not be asymmetric war. So usually asymmetric war between non-state actor and governmental forces. And here is the point. When states fighting each other in conventional war even, or not, or unconventional war, so when they fight each other, so each state would like to impose its will on the other. And there is some result inside the international community in legal way. They would like, because diplomacy did not succeed, so conventional war here between the 2 states is working, not within the asymmetric war. And each state is capable to manage its country, even its fragile state, failed state even, but they are capable comparatively to manage the country. But when it comes from non-active state, here is a big problem. Are they really capable, if they succeed somehow, to manage the country, which is a failed state like Yemen? number one. What they have to lose? Nothing. Nothing to lose. But as a country, I have a lot to lose. Right? I have a lot to lose. Not as a ruler to lose my position. I don't think that Zelensky right now, for example, is thinking about himself. You know, he's thinking about the country. But non-state actors, usually they think about the other side, not their own side. My aim was to get you down, not to be on the top. See, that's why this is the truly unbalanced. Yeah. Because the balance is between two wise, between two capable. Why you are not allowed in boxing to hit under the belt? This will create unbalance. So you will kill each other. Yeah. Actor states or states, they don't want to kill each other. They would like to kill the will of each other. Yeah. But not under actor state, he can die to kill you, not for state. And this is the second. Third, as military, very military now, my 30 years, and some generals attending, and I see my senior, who I learned it from him when I was very young, General Wa'il Rabia is attending. I like that man very much. He's very capable. And he can understand you and everybody what I will say right now. A big difference between definitions. Generation of war, shape of war, type of war. So type of wars may be conventional and unconventional, two types. Conventional, which is known, Army, Air Defense, Navy, Air Force, and other subordinates. Conventional war, like what could be happen between Russia and Ukraine, maybe somehow, right? Unconventional war, cyber warfare, electronic warfare, psychological warfare, and maybe hybrid, which is Russia is very capable in that. This is the type of war, right? So hybrid may be conventional and unconventional, and we all know that, right? Third, generation of war. A big difference between also generation of war and generation of weapons. It's a big mistake. Strategists fail down in these definitions. Generation of weapon, as I mentioned, fifth generation of weapon, which is F-35, fourth generation of air defense was S-400. It's not fourth generation or fifth generation or sixth generation of war. It's not related. Generation of war, the definition is a qualitative, dialectically qualitative shift. Shift of what? Of nature of war and goals of the warriors who are against each other. That's why sometimes weapon affect, but not the weapon, maybe fire, means of fire effect. Like second generation of war because of the indirect fire. Third generation of war because of the, how can I say, tactics, the maneuvers to fight several echelons in the same time, maneuvers, okay, outflanking, attack, and so use air force together with land forces in the same time in the depth of the enemy, this type, but all of them militarily, but first and second warfare, that obedience is more important than initiative, but third generation of war is initiative more than independence, right? Nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapon is still the massive destruction weapon, the strongest one, and it has been, you know, used first time, I don't say created first time, used first time in 1945 against your lovely country. So we shouldn't mix between generation of war and generation of weapons. Generation of war is very related to the nature of war, to the what I want from you. Remember what I mentioned a few minutes ago when I said that what the non-state actor wants to kill your will, not even to defeat, no, to kill your will, to get it down. And if you don't obey them, it will be very costly for you, not costly for him. And by the way, drones is like ambushed, you know, fire. And human, if with the belt of explosion, is same like drones, right? And this is not modern, it's not generation of weapon at all. It's generation of the type, of the way of the style. So we have to understand the difference, I think. I finished my answer.
Thank you very much, sir.
Great. just for following up, there are some claim of responsibility of the attack in so-called promise brigades, based on allegedly based in Iraq. And it's similar to the previous attacks in 2019, Abu Qaik and Khrais, and also, recent attacks on Saudi Arabia. So how do you see this kind of, Iraqi militia claim of responsibility? What's behind this kind of, discourse? Is it may be part of course, information warfare, but who is behind it?
Okay, before, allow me to say some example. Okay, if you don't mind, it's not professional, but please allow me to do that. Suppose that you and Rio, you are in the jungles of Africa, right? And you see tiger. You know what's the first thing you have to do from people who are expert in that? That maybe you have to carry Rio on your shoulder to show to the tiger that you are very big. You are not small, right? And the tiger will be a bit hesitating to attack you. So if I have, make it horizontally, not vertically, if I have different faces, interfaces to my website, so you would be cheated that I have, a very professional website with, say, I think most probably it's another interface. It's not true organization, and it happened with many terrorists or non-terrorists. I don't care about prescription right now. Like even, Daesh, they did so. Jabhat al-Nusra, they did so with some others. Even Muslim Brotherhood in their movement, they did so somehow. That we are not only here, we are everywhere with different names. So it's well known and it's commonly used, and the media like that. So the media, I think, I'm not sure, I have never been to Iraq to see by myself, which I like to do usually. But what I can say, I think it's another interface. It's exhilarating to show to the tiger to scatter you at least, or to deter you. And to show you that, okay, you remember when I told you Emirates would like to scatter Houthis? Houthis also would like to scatter their enemies by several pictures of Houthis, but different names, right? And it's easy, which they call it, I think, the dark website or the dark web, something like that, used by terrorists that some people, they claim that they are very skillful to penetrate it, which I don't trust. But anyway, they in this dark web, as I could understand, they try to show that they are several, they are many, presently at least, and even with depth. We are not only in Yemen, we are in Iraq, we are in Syria, we are different. But when you ask me about Hezbollah, there is Hezbollah. They fought. Maybe it's al-Hashd al-Shabi of Iraq, Maybe it's just nothing, and they said it has been targeted from Iraq, maybe just to scatter you. And by the way, it could be good for Iran itself. One of the issues that I'm controlling from everywhere. I have my people, if they can even work independently, but I have them everywhere.
Okay.
That I drink because of my throat. I like.
Oh, never mind. Take your time. And there's a very good questions in Q&A box. And yes, they are from your region, from the Middle East and the Gulf region. Today there are a lot of your friends are coming in from the diplomatic and defense sector in the Gulf and the Middle East, and we really welcome your participation. The first question is Mr. Wael Rabea. It's about linkage issue. Is there, do you believe that the normalization is one of the main reasons for the attack from Houthis on UAE as a kind of pressure from Iran on UAE? So, okay, yeah. How do you respond? What's your assessment of this kind of linkage issue?
Okay, as if it is by Houthis independently, so it's not I agree with General Weil. I understand him very well. I told you that he was my commander several times. So I know what he means. I think he disagrees that it's against normalization. I agree with him because if it is only this, so because Houthis, they don't care about political affairs, right? They care more about their internal issues, about their military. They don't care if they have, if suppose that Israel supported them, Houthis, suppose, for any reason, they would be happy, right? So there is no nationalism and Arabism here, you know, to say, no, I don't need you, for example. And suppose that Iran does not help them. I given you just for argument, you know. So it's against Emirates intervention, but in the same time, indirectly, and remember, maybe green light by Iran, also at Houthis, if I do it independently, I have to satisfy Iran somehow. So it's against the relation between, it should be the relation between Israel and Yemen, but no, because they became closer. They became closer. If Houthis think this way, it's not successful, even if it's against normalization, because Israel get closer to United Arab Emirates, and United Arab Emirates open more. Remember, something very important. What's the difference between Egyptian normalization and Emirati normalization, for example? To complete this answer, Emirates normalization shows, let me say, shows at its full normalization. Political normalizations, embassies. Economic normalizations, trade. Technological normalizations, yes. Military normalizations, you have joint training together. They have, I think, defense attaches will be somehow, or maybe they are here today, or whatever, right? And the most important, social normalization, that the people start to like each other. When you talk about Egypt, and I served, and General Weil served longer than me, even the armed forces. So he knows very well, I know very well that we have diplomatic normalization, political normalization, we have economic normalization, but we don't have military normalization. We don't have social normalization. That like Egyptian armed forces commander cannot, no, he does not say good morning to the Minister of Defense of Israel what we will do together today. It's not like that. There is a liaison agency with international organization who is responsible of coordination between the two armed forces, not commanders, not battalions, like between Jordan maybe and Israel, which I really respect Jordan. So, and social normalization, no. In Egypt, it's the biggest Arabian population, mostly more than 90% against Israel, against Zionism, against. So this is a difference. Why I'm saying that? Because even it should be, when I compare with is fully normalization, so it gets closer. Do you remember I told you? It show like full normalization, now it confirmed full normalization, you know, this attack by Houthis.
Okay, the another question is from Mr. Nuruddin Assaid. The recent attacks against the United Arab Emirates started from Iraq. It's based on this alleged claim by an Iraqi militia. What is the impact of the development on the Iraqi Gulf relations? And do you think that the Iraqi militias are able to expand their targeting of the UAE's allies in the region? Oh, it's a very good question.
Yeah, please. Excellent, like the previous one. If I agree with him that it's by elements in Iraq, I suppose so. Maybe it's against my previous answer, as I told you, different interface. But if I agree with that, we have to remember something, with all due respect to all countries, that Iraq is still failed state, no full control. A failed state has 4 features. One of them, if you don't have mobility of force. So inside Iraq, no mobility of force. Inside Lebanon, no mobility. Inside Yemen, no mobility of force. Inside Libya, no mobility of force. So that's why they are called failed state. One of the 4 features of the failed state. So it doesn't mean that as Iraq as a state targeted Emirates, but non-actor state, if it's correct, I mean, if it's by non-actor states, so-called Wa'ad al-Haq in Iraq, who targeted, who is pro-Iran. So it's something like non-actor state. So I disagree that it would be a problem between the 2 states. I hope my answer is clear.
Okay, is it okay? So we could have pass microphone to to, but this time okay, we have to take a short break after that, just less than 10 minutes, and we start again I 3:30 p.m. In Japan and 10:30 a.m. in Abu Dhabi. And please don't go away. We continue to open this session, but we just have a less than 10 minutes short break. So please come back at 3:30 in Tokyo and 10:30 in Abu Dhabi. We will open again our discussion on the next topic, part 2, about the Eastern question redux, Turkey's position between NATO and Russia. We will ask again to Dr. Said Ghoneim about his analysis on this broad topic. So please come back just 5 minutes later. Thank you very much. See you soon, very soon.
Thank you.